of our highest academic honor. They are creative, insightful, and humble. They are excellent thinkers, excellent writers, and amazing leaders. They are gentlemen who live their lives with Torah values and excellent midot. With all that, they are really nice, normal people. And I take great pride this evening in introducing to you the valedictorians, all of whom will have the identical grade point average, the class of 2012. In alphabetical order, Mackenzie Berman, who will be studying at Princeton, Jason Lefkowitz, who will be studying at Cornell, and Benjamin Markowitz, who will be studying at Harvard. Gentlemen, please come. We will hear from each of them in alphabetical order.
Dr. Vito, Rabbi Weinberg, distinguished faculty, the class of 2012, you can cheer. Family and friends, good evening. Writing a graduation speech. How to begin? How to capture the experiences of the past 4 years into a single speech? Could I possibly distill the past 4 years into one powerful, inspirational quote? I felt the burden of this tremendous honor and responsibility. So again, I kept hesitating over where to start. I figured the answer to that question would lie where all answers lie. The one source of inspiration that each of us relies upon to find knowledge: Google. As I perused page after page of quotes, a particularly profound one caught my eye. It had no author, no source, yet it told me exactly how I could accomplish the task before me. The quote read, "The best way to get something done is to begin." At first, my interpretation of the quote was that my computer was telling me to stop looking for quotes and just write. Soon, though, I understood that this very quote perfectly captured my experience and our collective experience as students at North Shore Hebrew Academy High School. During freshman orientation 4 short years ago, Dr. Vital stood before over 100 students who just months earlier had graduated from North Shore Middle School, YCQ, Hofstra, Brandeis, Solomon Schechter, and Har Torah, to name a few. He told us that for the first time, the freshman retreat would not be in the middle of the year. It would not be after we, the freshmen, had a chance to find our new best friends and cement ourselves into our impermeable social bubbles. No, it would be the very next weekend. Dr. Vital, thank you. You put me in an incredibly awkward situation. Just 3 months earlier, I gave a speech at the Brandeis Middle School graduation. I marveled about how similar we, the graduates, were. How we shared the same values, how we had similar customs, how we grew as a group, and how we knew almost everything about each other. Now, here I was, a stranger, in a strange, new environment. How would I mesh with the students and faculty at a modern Orthodox yeshiva? Could I possibly make friends despite my dissimilar customs? Dr. Vital helped answer this question for me, and for the many students who had similar concerns. One weekend, and 2 famous midnight barbecues later, I finally understood Dr. Vital's motive. The best way to get something done, the best way to create an environment of social fluidity, was simply to begin. By not allowing us to comfortably ease into our social groups, that is, by taking our comfort away, we had no other choice than to branch out. Soon, a network of interdependent and interconnected students was formed. Each of us was a child born into a world of strangers, and pretty soon, we began to call these strangers family. By being thrown into the fire, our academic and social relationships became personal and profound. They thrived due to a synergy that could only be forged by a group of people who wanted nothing more than to see their counterparts succeed. Whatever initial discomfort we felt quickly dissipated. In its place, we developed a lasting and unshakable dependence. It was not until Shirya this past March, though, that dependence and faith was truly tested. With Pirkei Avot as the class of 2012's theme, one quote struck home with the senior class. You may remember from our first place winning Shirya video, as Bradley sat alone in the shul contemplating his role as North Shore's bachelor. As he began to question his identity, he gazed into space and said the famous line found in Pirkei Avot, Perek Aleph, Mishnah Yud. Im ein ani li, mi li. U'she'ani la'atzmi, ma ani. Ve'im lo achshav, imatai. If I am not for myself, who will be for me? Yet, if I am for myself only, what am I? And if not now, when? It is seemingly the perfect concluding quote to tie together our growth as a unit and our elemental faith upon one another. Somewhat surprisingly, though, our senior experience in winning Shirya taught us almost the direct opposite lesson. What began as trust and dependence developed into a confident, selfless sense of independence. Make no mistake, we fully needed cooperation in designing and painting an outstanding banner. And we exemplified dependence and teamwork by staying up until 11 p.m. night after night in order to finish decorating our hallway. We could not have won formation without the careful coordination of each of the 18 members that were part of it. And we definitely could not have sung 2 extraordinary songs without the willingness of each and every member of our family constantly lending a hand. But, as we triumphed, each person was forced to look at himself or herself and ask who he or she truly was. Without Jason Katz spending all night devising the perfect routine for formation, we could not have won. Without Brett Lichtenberg and Daniel Goldberg independently spending countless hours creating a plot and a script, our video would have been nothing. If not for individual students volunteering to write a speech or Dvar Torah, our dependence on each other would have been worthless. Shirya taught our family that the most evolved form of dependence also breeds the best form of independence. By trusting each other in such a fundamental and basic way, we understood our personal responsibility to produce for our own sakes and for the sakes of our classmates. So, as I now reflect on the past 4 years, I often ask myself a question. What has North Shore taught me? A couple obvious answers come to mind right away. First of all, spicy mayo and pizza, definitely an acceptable combination. And finally, if you don't send down your attendance, mark my words, Linda will find you. But as I really think about it, I realize that North Shore has taught me and the entire class of 2012 what life will also teach us. Just as we entered North Shore as strangers to each other, we will soon enter our yeshivot and college campuses as strangers to future classmates and best friends. We will be taken out of our comfort zones once again, and we will be left to our own resources to come together with classmates and peers. Each and every one of us will need to rely on others to accomplish our goals, and others will undoubtedly be reliant upon us as well. Finally, an indestructible camaraderie developed over years together will be tested, as we need to ask ourselves who and what we truly are. Dependence will evolve into independence, as we will strive to provide for ourselves, our families, our friends, and our communities. This cycle was true as we entered the world 17 and 18 years ago. It was true as we entered this outstanding high school. It will be true as we enter our upcoming years of education. And it will definitely be true as we become integral members of a global society. We will never be able to accomplish our goals by taking shortcuts. We will never be assigned best friends or spouses. You will never magically be given the most prestigious job or the best means source provided for those whom we love. But, as I've learned through the prism of this unique experience, the best way to get this done The best way for each and every one of us to accomplish our goals is to begin. Dr. Vital understood this when he planned our freshman retreat 4 short years ago. And tonight, I know the class of 2012 understands this as well. Wherever next year takes us, wherever life takes us, we will hit the ground running and we will succeed. Because North Shore has taught us how to be interdependent and independent, how to collaborate and how to inspire one another. And most importantly, North Shore has taught us how to begin. So, one more minute. As we all prepare to begin again, I want to congratulate my fellow valedictorians, Jason and Ben, as well as my fellow graduates here tonight. I further want to thank the faculty that has mentored and prepared us to succeed, and the parents and family members who have and always will support us, nurture us, and guide us through every new beginning along the way. Thank you.
President John F. Kennedy once said, "The only reason to give a speech is to change the world." Maybe today is the day we can do it together. Friends and classmates, today is graduation day. For our graduating class, it is a perfect day. But I would suggest that this day may be perfect in more ways than one. The date is June 12th, 2012, 6/12/12. A unique day in which all the numbers in today's date are divisible by the number 6. It is not surprising that our graduation day, our special day of transition and change, is associated with a special number, the perfect number 6. You are probably wondering, what is so significant about the number 6? And why am I calling it a perfect number? To answer this question, I wish to talk first about transition, change, movement as in making the transition and move from high school to college and beyond. We expect to navigate this transition without much trouble, like those who graduated before us. But later in life, as our world changes, and it always does, how will we handle it? An example of this concept is illustrated by my great-grandfather, who was born in Poland in 1890. Throughout his life, he was able to transition and move in order to help his family to survive the perils Jews faced in the 20th century. And yet, in 1969, he watched the landing of the Apollo lunar module on television, and he did not accept that astronauts were walking on the moon. He thought these iconic scenes were a hoax, executed with trick photography. To him, philosophically, God was in the heavens, and man could not wander into and encroach upon God's realm. His unwillingness to engage in a transition from Torah to space travel is ironic, considering his life of change and transition, and makes us consider how we will handle dramatic changes in the new world that will be unveiled in our lifetime. In order to deal with these changes, first, we need to try to understand transition and change in the context of our religion and its correlation with the number 6. The Torah says the following: 6 days shall you work, notice the 6, and accomplish all your work, but the 7th day is Shabbat to Hashem. You will not do any work. When the Torah describes the creation of the world, it uses the formula, Vayhi erev vayhi boker yom echad, Vayhi erev vayhi boker yom sheni, etc. On each day of creation, there is a transition from evening to morning, and each day, the same wording. However, when the Torah speaks of Shabbat, it uses a different wording. Vayichal Elokim bayom hashvi'i melachto asher asah. So Shabbat is a day of rest, and the other 6 days are days of movement and creativity. The Torah is therefore telling us that transition, creation, creativity is associated with the number 6. Even early mathematicians like Nicomachus, a leading member of the Pythagorean school, cited the religious significance of the number 6. Namely, that God specifically chose to create the world in 6 days because 6 is a perfect number. The idea that the number 6 is associated with creation and creativity is actually hinted to in the first word of the Torah. The Torah begins with the word Bereshit, in the beginning, which can be split into 2 words. Bara, he created, and shape, which in Aramaic is 6. So Bereshit means he created the number 6. Now, why is 6 considered a perfect number? You can Google this, but in numbers theory, 6 is a perfect number because it can be divided by the numbers 3, 2, and 1. And then, if you take those numbers and add them together, 3 plus 2 plus 1, you get 6. As an aside, there are only 4 numbers between 1 and 10,000 that are perfect numbers. The first one is 6. In our religion, you will notice that the perfect number 6 appears at every turn. The tefillin that we wear daily, we wear one on our arm and one on our head. The one on the head has 2 shins, one on either side, while the tefillin that we wear on our arm has no shins. Why is this? The Vilna Gaon says that both shins make the word sheish, 6. The shins are on the head tefillin because creativity and thought take place in our mind. In our minds, we transition from one thought to another until we decide our course of action, which is then accomplished through our hands. That is why there are 613 mitzvot, a number that begins with 6. And that is why 600,000 Jews left Egypt, also beginning with the number 6. Both numbers represent change, transition, from before the giving of the Torah to after the giving of the Torah, and from being a nation of 600,000 slaves to being a nation of 600,000 free individuals. Furthermore, we may not yet fully understand the Holocaust, but the number who perished, 6 million, is surely not without significance. Finally, the 6th blessing in Shemona Esrei is the bracha of Teshuvah, because we are changing, transitioning from sinning to repentance. So again, the number 6 represents change and transition. Throughout our lives, we transition from one situation to another, from elementary school to high school to college to a career and to building a family of our own. We are constantly in movement and transition. That is why our world is associated with the number 6. There are only 6 directions that one can go: north, south, east, west, up, and down. To paraphrase Theodore Roosevelt, the best way to go is the right way. The second best way to go is the wrong way. And the worst way to go is to go nowhere. This brings to mind a storyline in the popular television sitcom Seinfeld. George Costanza, brilliantly portrayed by actor Jason Alexander, is a perpetual loser, always going nowhere. As a recurring theme, he tries to assume the role of a more successful person, primarily to impress potential girlfriends. Some of you may recall a particularly funny episode in which he enjoyed short-term success with a popular high school acquaintance by passing himself off as a marine biologist. In another familiar scenario, George is introduced to a potential suitor as an importer-exporter. He vehemently objects to this approach. "Jerry, why didn't you tell her I'm an architect? You know I always wanted to pretend I was an architect." As I gaze upon my classmates, I do not see 104 George Costanzas. As he would describe himself, short, bald, with no job, no life, and no prospects. Instead, within our class we have artists, musicians, engineers, physicians, nurses, lawyers, designers, people who will certainly succeed in finance, real estate, and business. Unlike George Costanza, we are going places. But wherever we may go, we may need to remember perhaps the most important phrase in our religion, the Shema prayer that we say every day, that has in it, you guessed it, 6 words. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. This represents the idea that although we are constantly changing, transitioning, we must acknowledge the need to return to our roots, to the Torah of our parents and teachers, and to understand the significance of the perfect number 6 in our lives. Today is 6/12/12, graduation day, a perfect day. And JFK was right. This is the day we all go out and change the world. Congratulations.
The pressure's on. Before I begin, I would like to express how honored I am to be a part of such an amazing valedictory trio with Jason and Mackenzie. I truly admire your abilities and cherish your friendship. Honored rabbis, administrators, teachers, family, friends, and the esteemed graduating class of 2012. Help savage somebody, come on. Of the 3 valedictorians on the stage, I am the only resident of Great Neck. So I would like to say, Chosh u'madin dustay gerami, merci que u'madin dasay in choshi ema. Metunam ye job begam dagar modir ema, vali nemikonam. Tonight, I'm here to offer a message to the graduating class of 2012 that I hope each one of us will remember as we begin our new lives at the conclusion of this ceremony. Ze'ev Jabotinsky, the father of revisionist Zionism and mentor of Israeli Prime Minister Menachem Begin, regularly preached what he deemed the 11th commandment of Judaism. It is a very fine thing to be a gentleman, he said, but that is no reason for being a fool. Jabotinsky argued that Jewish foolishness and naivete were an integral part to the continuance of the pogroms and many of the other atrocities that the Jewish people had faced in the past. He would preach his message to Russian Jews in the 1930s, begging them to arm themselves, or better yet, to immediately move to British-mandated Palestine. According to Jabotinsky, Jewish weakness was not a virtue, but rather a fatal vice. To appease one's conscience by simply assuming that everything would work out for the best was the easiest way to ensure that there would be no Jewish future. This lesson, as I seek to perpetuate it, is not only about survival. Rather, it should encompass our daily lives, especially on the college campus. But what does it mean for us, pragmatically speaking, to follow Jabotinsky's caveat towards foolishness? Last year, the University of Pennsylvania, future home to our starting 5, we can get a round of applause for that, hosted a BDS, or Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions Conference. The goal of this conference was to justify and promote economic sanctions and divestment from Israel. This past year, Harvard held a one-state solution conference. This one state, as the conference founders see it, would be for all those living in the area, despite ethnicity, in essence erasing the Jewish state. Not long ago, students at Brandeis, a school whose namesake is that of a renowned Zionist leader, protested a commencement speech by Israeli Ambassador Michael Oren, or as one Jewish student there called him, a rogue state apologist. If you've noticed, these events aimed at delegitimizing the state of Israel took place on college